Webinar. We're very pleased to have you. I'd like to launch right in and let you know that this webinar is being held on behalf of NASCASP, the National Association for State Community Services Programs, through a grant that they're receiving from the Office of Community Services as part of the State Performance Management Clearinghouse Initiative. And I'll be reviewing some component of that later on during the webinar. First, to do a little bit of housekeeping, most of you, I'm sure, have been on webinars before. We will have a recording of this session as well as a copy of the full presentation that you can use to access material which will be highlighted during the presentation. That will go out to you by email, most likely on Monday. It will also be posted on Virtual CAP, and it will be there for your access thereafter. During the webinar, if you have any questions or comments that you would like to forward to us, on your control panel you can see the area there that allows for questions to be forwarded, as well as a chat box, so feel free to use those, please. We'll probably pause briefly in the middle of the session to see if any questions have been submitted during the early part of the information, and then hopefully before we wrap up at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we'll allow some time for further questions. Okay, hopefully you've glanced at who I am. I might know many of you, and I'm hopeful that I've interacted with you at some conferences perhaps, but my background in community action goes back over 40 years when I started out in rural Virginia. I'm not going to read my whole biography here, but most importantly, created, at least up until the last few years, created Virtual CAP, which is a website I'll give you information about at the end of the session here, as a way for us to learn and share with each other throughout the country some of the innovative approaches we've developed in local agencies, some resources that we've taken advantage of. I hope you've become familiar with virtualcap.org. We'll look at it and participate with the information that we share on that. But most recently, now wrapping up the third year of this work, I've been helping NASCASP gather material to go in the resource bank of the CSBG Training and Technical Assistance Center. And this focuses specifically on evidence-based, evidence-informed, exemplary, and promising programs and practices. That is at the core of what we'll be sharing with you during the second half of this webinar. Potentially, some of you, hopefully many of you, were able to join us on May 8th when we launched our first webinar in this series, basically to give an overview of the notion of putting what works into your programs and into your organization, developing tried and tested initiatives that others have done evaluations of, who have gathered data on, that can really give the type of proof that what you're doing is truly making a difference for the people in the communities that are being served. You can access that webinar online, as you can see, on virtualcap.org. Go to May 8th, or just use that link that you'll get afterwards and look at the material there. But I was hoping to take an opportunity very quickly to give you some of the highlights of that webinar, because it really flows into what today's session is about. And that had three components to it. The first one was looking at the environment that we're currently living through, dating back, and even earlier than many of you remember, President Obama's State of the Union address in 2011, when the announcement came, the first announcement of proposing cuts to the Community Services Block Grant by 50%. And the whole underlying decision for that was based on wanting the network really to look at how outcomes are being demonstrated. Our community action agencies in particular are accountable for the work that's being carried out, and is that making a difference in the communities that we serve. Prior to the President's State of the Union address, the Office of Management and Budget, dating back to 2009, put out many different guidance, memos, et cetera, talking about emphasizing at a higher level developing and using evidence showing the outcomes of work being carried out. Of course, this is also happening at state and local levels. We went over some strategies that community action agencies and other CSBG network members can apply to really be positioned with this environment that we're in, looking at creating a results and outcome-oriented performance management system, understanding what evidence base is all about. Is it just rigorous research, or are there other ways to pull together material that is shown to have positive results? And then finally, looking at the resources that you can apply from the CSBG Resource Center and others. When you receive the presentation from today's session, we're going to include some of the material from the May presentation. And specifically, I wanted to highlight a couple of slides here. The first group, actually, a couple of those materials. The first group came out of a forum that the Center for Law and Social Policy held about 2 years ago. And one of the presenters there, Elizabeth or Lee Shore from the Center for the Study of Social Policy, made an excellent presentation on how she terms an inclusive evidence base to improve outcomes. And the material that we've gathered from that forum and from Lee Shore includes this paper talking about broader evidence for bigger impact. And those of you who are familiar with evidence-based research know that it's a very rigorous process. It takes quite a bit of time and quite a bit of resources over a period of several years to get folks who are involved in your programs, as well as control groups of people who are not involved in your programs, gathering data, looking at what the outcomes are, and looking at what difference the interventions may have made to those who have been in your program compared to those who haven't. So that is pretty high level, often referred to as the gold standard. But if you open this paper by Lee Shore, you'll find that she presents in the center there what she rephrases as a more inclusive evidence base. That yes, we want to see and learn from experimental evaluations, but there's a continuum. And if you look at the continuum, it includes programs and practices that have been shown to have effectiveness, maybe not through a rigorous control group comparison, but through data that comes out showing the difference that it makes, or even through the knowledge in the field that can be shown to have positive results in it. So I hope that that paper, going back again, this paper here becomes a very good starting point to begin thinking more broadly about what do we mean by putting effective interventions out as part of our programs. Okay. We shared two documents or publications that you can access for free if you use these links. One is called Leap of Reason, Managing to Outcomes in an Era of Scarcity. This is the early publication that largely came out talking about getting your organization, getting your agency into the mindset that outcomes is what we're about, that it's not just what we're doing, but how that work we're doing really is making changes for the people and the communities that we're serving. So the Leap of Reason is a starting point, but then afterwards, more recently, this second publication, again available for free online, is called Working Hard, Working Well, Practical Guide to Performance Management. There's a lot of excellent tools in this publication. I encourage you to access it. Both of these were featured on Virtual CAP as our feature of the month, and you can access them. This second piece really is about designing your performance management system, and the tools that they give you can really help you move along with that. So without belaboring and repeating what we covered back in May, what I'd like to do is move ahead into our work for today, and it really has two aspects to it. To start off, I'm going to present several models of family economic mobility that I hope will be of value to you as you look at the entire scope of work that your agency is involved with, and hopefully even some strategic thinking toward what type of future focus your agency will undertake. And after that, we'll be pulling out a few examples of resources from the CSBG Resource Bank that are aligned with these models of family economic mobility, as well as some other related resources that you can access. Before I share the three models that I felt would be useful today, I thought I'd present this slide about the notion of collective impact. Coincidentally, I was at a state community action conference in Virginia earlier in June, and Jeannie Chafin, the director of OCS, presented at that session, and she talked about the notion of collective impact. And listening to her and then doing a little bit of research afterwards, it struck me that the whole idea of collective impact is really directly parallel to what community action has been about ever since the beginning of the Economic Opportunity Act in 1964. And that is realizing that we cannot, as a single network or single agencies and then a single network, really affect the type of large-scale social change, as it says on the slide here, without really having others in our community, other agencies, the public sector, the local elected officials, and the private sector involved in our efforts. Even within our own agency, one program alone is not going to have the large effect that if we work in a very cohesive way, both internally and then with others in the community, we can have a much greater influence and help alleviate poverty, advance economic mobility. So I share the slide with you. I'm not going through it entirely. I think the first point, common agenda, is really the starting point for the three models that I'm about to share with you. Getting a shared vision for change that not only folks in community action, but our partners in the community can buy into. And then looking at how we take that vision and really set up some goals and strategies and accountability systems to move us ahead and help families gaining economic mobility. First model I'm sharing is from the Pew Charitable Trusts. It's specifically called the Economic Mobility Project, so it really fits into the topic of today's webinar. When you get the presentation, you'll notice at the bottom left-hand side of the document there's an icon saying open. So when you get your copy of this, you can click on that and actually get the full report, Pathways to Economic Mobility, Key Indicators. The report was published about 5 years ago, and it basically provides a lot of data showing how certain factors of American life, including educational attainment, family structure, savings, etc., really are the strong determinants of economic mobility. And looking at the next slide, what they do is they categorize these indicators into three different elements: social capital, human capital, and financial capital. The link up in the right-hand side there will give you a two-page fact sheet that gives you information on each of these indicators. It's a really good two-page fact sheet. But the reason I'm starting with this is, to me, this fits perfectly into what community action has as its array of concerns and interests. And I believe if you look at your own organization, everything you can do can fit into one of these three categories. And so you're hopefully looking at what these include. The social capital up in the upper left-hand side, basically non-financial resources, looking at relationships that people have with others and with other institutions in the community. How much of this is your agency involved with? It's a question to ask. Where might you focus your work in ways that you haven't thought about before to really help increase the social capital that low-income families gain through the work that you're doing, but also through the partnerships that you're creating and the leadership that you have in your community. Human capital are, in effect, the skills and attributes that people are able to gain that helps them take advantage of opportunities in the community. And I really love the first two, parent and child educational attainment. you'll be seeing another model among the three that I'm sharing that really elevates that idea, the parent and the child together, a two-generation approach. So keep that in mind as I go through the slides here. But once again, you can build this out and looking at the work that you're doing, fitting into this category. Where are there gaps? Where are there gaps in your community? Is this something that your agency might explore, or is it something that you can leverage others to get more involved with? And then finally, financial capital. We'll be sharing some model resources under this area. Many community action agencies obviously are involved in home ownership, small business development, asset development, et cetera. But I think this is a very neat way to begin sorting through what you're involved with and how that pieces together with the overall work and needs in the community. Second model, this comes out of Sonoma County, California. And basically, the way I learned about this was because the local community action agency there, the Community Action Partnership of Sonoma County, has done a lot to really put its organization into a mindset of building best practices within all its programs and using evidence-based research as much as possible. This, however, is a community-wide framework, and it's interesting to me because if you look at the 5 goals listed there, again, very consistent with the ideals of community action. How do we create a continuum for children to develop the best school readiness type of programs, whether it's Head Start or other efforts, to be successful in school, to be prepared for a career in the world of work? How do we work ourselves and with others? So what I wanted to share beyond these 5 goals, this is really an excellent framework. There are evidence-based recommendations that are given for each of the 5 Cradle to Career goals. You can open the booklet over there. It's a 4-page booklet showing how they've put this framework together. And what you'll come up with on page 4 of the booklet are the 5 goals with a total of, I believe it's 23 different evidence-based recommendations fitting into the Cradle to Career concept. And it was interesting for me looking through this to really, it's like ringing a bell every time I see something that fits into work that community action agencies focus on. Goal 1, helping children with school readiness in terms of health and healthy development of children, supporting literacy and parenting capacity, early care and education programs. Goal 2, helping each child succeed academically, re-engaging dropouts in school. Goal 3, supporting youth while they're not only in school but out of school, so programs such as family involvement programs, out-of-school time programs, community service programs, many community action agencies do. You can go through each of these 5 goals, and as in the first model, pinpoint where are you actively contributing to this Cradle to Career concept. Can you even adapt this for your own community and bring others in it? So coincidentally, at the National Community Action Partnership Conference in August, I'll be presenting a workshop, co-presenting with the leaders of the Community Action Partnership of Sonoma County, and we'll be sharing more details on the Cradle to Career concept and the work that they're doing. The third model you may have seen as our feature of the month that just came out this week. It's called the Ascend program. And this is put together by the Aspen Institute. It's an initiative that Aspen has. As I mentioned a few moments ago when I talked about children succeeding in school and educational efforts of parents, well, here it is, your 2-generation strategy for struggling families. And what the Ascend program has constructed is a continuum of 2-generation approaches, going from programs and organizations that are more parent-focused and may have some involvement with children. On the other side, you have organizations that are child-focused and may have some involvement with parents. And the questions to ask are how can we build up beyond what we're doing now with the whole idea that the effectiveness of our programs with children will only go so far if the parents are not succeeding as well. And it's an important, I guess if you look on the left, an important scaffold that they've created with 3 elements to it. Education being at the core, but then looking at economic supports, and there's the term we heard earlier, social capital, the one that came out of the Pew's Economic Mobility Project. And so I hate to be redundant, but once again, if you look at this scaffold and how it's constructed, it should be quite easy to see, okay, here's where we are really doing some good work. We're hitting some of these pieces, but there's other pieces that either we or others can get involved with. And the good news is there's some money that you might explore putting an application in for from the Aspen Institute. This is a $1 million fund that Aspen has developed to give agencies small grants in the neighborhood of $25,000 to $50,000 that will help build the idea of 2-generation solutions to helping families move toward economic self-sufficiency. There was a webinar yesterday. There's another one coming up in July. Please click on the Feature of the Month link that you see there for more information about this fund, as well as more information about the Ascend program overall. And hopefully this will be something that you'll find worthwhile either to apply and get some money, or to look at what they're doing and see how that could help you build your efforts further in your agency. Okay, as I mentioned, the second part of the webinar that we wanted to focus on are some of the resources that you can freely access through the State Performance Management Clearinghouse piece that NASCASP, and I've worked with NASCASP on, has been gathering to help community action agencies learn about evidence-based, evidence-informed, as well as exemplary and promising practices in the 5 focus areas that you see. When I move along here, I'm really going to limit what I share with you to just a few examples from employment-related services and asset development, but there are many other items that you'll be able to explore. I'm providing you with some of the definitions that were given to NASCASP by OCS in terms of how to classify material through the evidence-based practice, as I mentioned, the gold standard, going along down to the lower level of promising practice that has some level of proven effectiveness through data that's been gathered, but still needs further evidence along the way to move up the scale here. So I hope these definitions are useful to you. Now, we're going to send a poll out as a follow-up to the webinar, and one of the questions we'll ask is how many of you are presently registered for the CSBG Training and Technical Assistance Resource Center. It's free. It's very simple. All you have to do, and you'll have the link if you see at the bottom right there, you can just open that link up and do a quick registration, and you're on the Resource Center. And if you look across the top, you can see the different features that are available to you, including a resource bank. And so once you register and open up the resource bank, this is on 2 slides, you'll see a screen where you can search for materials. At the top of the screen there, you have categories that you're able to use. If you look over on the left, you have your evidence-based or evidence-informed programs, and under that, your exemplary or promising practices, along with other types of resources that are also available. And the second part of the screen, when you open this up, I couldn't fit it on one slide, you get to actually do more of an advanced search. So you can have certain areas of information that you're looking for, And I will actually be showing you some out of 2 of these areas, employment-related services and asset development, as I just mentioned, as well as some outcome categories and other filters that you're able to use. And where I'm heading with this, and there's your web address at the bottom for the TNTA Resource Center. What I've done here is show you if you use your filters. So in other words, if you go to CSBG TNTA Request Need under Program Specific and look at employment services, you will pull up 51 different items. And you can refine your search looking for evidence-based or evidence-informed materials, and if you do so, you'll have 24 of those. Likewise, under education, you can search under outcome categories, and you can see the number of items there, 23 with 8 evidence-based or evidence-informed. And finally, another program-specific category, asset development, 30 items, 12 of which are evidence-based or evidence-informed. So I'm just trying to give you a flavor of how to do some searching. There are many combinations you can use, and I hope you'll take some time to look through that. Now, by the way, let me go back to that slide. Whoop. Okay, we're not done. Sorry. You are now seeing the backwards version of the webinar. But back to this slide here. Before I left it, what I wanted to share with you is that the 3 searches that I carried out, I specifically did because I thought they fit back into that Pew economic mobility, family economic mobility model, where you see the first 2 relate to human capital and the third one relates to financial capital. So that's a really good way to begin directing yourself in terms of what are you doing, what kind of resources do you need. Okay, under asset development, the report that I wanted to share with you happens to be from the Economic Mobility Project. So it's no coincidence that this fits in with their different categories, and this one, of course, being financial capital. What's interesting on this one to me, it's an evidence-informed study. They compiled quite a bit of data. There was not a control group per se, but they did some comparison of data that they had. And to me, this fits very nicely with so much of the work that community action agencies are involved with individual development accounts, family savings accounts of that nature, looking at issues like financial literacy as well. And this report then, if you look at the findings, really demonstrates how savings initiatives make a difference over time, particularly for children from families who are saving at a higher level than those who are not. And you can see 71% who born to high saving low-income parent move up compared to only 50% who have low saving low-income parents. But also the adults themselves, and maybe this is just straight up logic, but data is always a good thing to have behind what you're trying to convince those who you serve and those who you're trying to get support for your programs from, that over a 15-year period, the study that Pew and the people involved with this particular report found is that only 34%, or just about a third, were able to leave the bottom quartile of income if their savings were low, compared to 55% who left it if their savings were high. Again, it's basic logic, but there's some data that backs it up. And if you dig through the report a little bit, you'll notice in Chapter 3 that they talk about some of the pieces that are very common to these programs that I referred to, individual development accounts and financial literacy programs. For example, they talk about helping increase access to reliable transportation, benefiting from saving for higher education for children, helping low-income families create relationships with financial institutions such as banks and credit unions. So they have some focus on those specific areas, again, that are aligned with the work that we're involved with. Second report, again, through the Economic Mobility Project, is based on a lot of data that they put together over a period of time here, over 40 years actually, okay, showing how gaining a college education affects whether Americans can move up the economic ladder. So you can open the report and take a look at the findings that they have, and there are quite a few community action agencies that are doing college access, academic achievement, and college access programs. If you look at this data, you'll see the different income levels that result from higher levels of education. You'll see the growth of income over time for those who have higher levels of education compared to those who do not. And also, sadly to say, that low-income children, even if they have the grades and the capability of going on to college, if they prepared themselves, they often do not enroll in 2- or 4-year colleges. What the report includes, which I think is really the meat of what's important to us, are some of the strategies through this plan for promoting college attendance and graduation that have shown to be successful in helping increase the level of low-income student involvement in higher education. And it starts, hopefully no surprise, with looking at what's happening during early years of public school, whether it's preschool or academic preparation as students move along, and how that actually is being identified. How are students doing, and what is being done to help reinforce and encourage academic success and aspiring to go into college? And I'll share with you shortly some efforts that have focused on this. Improving college and financial aid counseling, and some innovative programs to help low-income students stay in college. So those are among the items listed on the plan by Pew. What I've put on this slide are, I think it's about, gosh, probably about 10 different examples, and these are just the starting point for how community action agencies are contributing to school achievement, college readiness, and college access. These are all on Virtual CAP. Each of those links will take you to the work that these particular organizations have developed. There are a lot of related resources on there, both in terms of kindergarten through 12th grade. If you're running a Head Start program, certainly assuring school readiness is germane to your work. There are a lot of resources that have been put together through this Garrett County project in Maryland. And just go on through and take a look at the list. One that I was personally involved with down at the very bottom there is called Project Discovery, which was set up specifically to increase the college enrollment of low-income students and students of color in Virginia. The Department of Justice, in fact, had a court order requiring the public universities in Virginia to increase their enrollment of African American students. And as a result, this got started with a Ford Foundation grant. But what I wanted to note was that over time, upwards of 75 to 80% of the students in this program throughout Virginia have gone on to higher education. So all of these are worth looking at, and if you're interested in getting involved in promoting academic achievement, college access, these are some resources that you can access. Sticking with education, but moving away from the Economic Mobility Project, Family Economic Mobility Project, I thought I would pull out another item from the CSBG Resource Bank from the Annie Casey Foundation. And this one's really interesting to me, particularly for Head Start grantees. And it talks about third grade reading skills and poverty and the combination of that and how that influences successful completion and graduation from high school. And if you look at this particular study, there's a database of close to 4,000 students over a 10-year period. What's interesting to me is they provide a series of tables with data behind it showing the effect of proficiency in reading by third grade. And you can see it's really incredibly significant in terms of those who don't graduate from high school. 4 times as many do not graduate who are not proficient. If you look down below at the second graph on the right, you'll see 23%, in fact, even a higher amount who are below basic proficiency do not graduate from high school. So I've pulled together the graphs from the report. You can see the dramatic effect of reading test scores. For example, on the chart on the upper left, 22% of the children who live in poverty don't graduate from high school, down on the bottom there, compared to 6% total, which is enormous. Figures 5 and 6 here, 4, 5, and 6, excuse me, show you for children who spend a year or more in poverty are only 38% of all children up on the left there, and yet they are 70% of all children who do not graduate from high school. Data like this really can help you build a case for work that you want to initiate in terms of follow-up efforts with your Head Start program, in terms of partnerships with schools, in terms of after-school programs, working with neighborhood groups, working with parents. Reading is one of the keys. It's not the only one, but it is one of them. And so a report like this can help you get actively involved to build that effort within your community. And then likewise, you are able to glance at other resources that you might find can also help underpin work that you'd like to do in this area. It happens that there's an organization that's promoting the campaign for grade level reading, specifically tied to what the Casey Foundation report has reflected. You can go online and see what their goal is. They're hoping to get at least a dozen states by the end of this decade who will increase or double the number of children who are reading proficiently by third grade. Is this something that you and your community might want to subscribe to? And they have a lot of resource guides and best practice information that you can access. So if you find a resource in the resource bank that strikes a chord with you, like the one we just reviewed, within the material itself, they often refer to related initiatives that you can learn from, or you can do some searching yourself and find items such as this one. Another one that fits into this is called Higher Achievement, Closing the Opportunity Gap for Middle School Youth. I don't think this is unique to just a few communities. I think the achievement gap affecting low-income students, affecting Latino and African American students, there's huge achievement gaps in many, many community schools. So if this particular initiative is largely in some urban areas. But the good news is, as I just said, there's a lot of good material that they've pulled together that can be applicable elsewhere. So here on the bottom left, you can see there's some good tools to look at what you're doing with out-of-school time programs. And then over on the right, from Child Trends, there's a whole gamut of information on summer youth programs, which many, many community action agencies historically have found to be the key type of work to help students avoid the falling behind further during summertime. So those are some resources that are available to you through the CSBG Resource Bank, and then spring off from there into other areas. And then what we've also pulled together are other clearinghouses that has information on best practices, evidence-based research, and beyond. So I will be sending you this resource list. You can access them. I have on there at the bottom a link to a document that shows you specifically the type of focus areas that each of these clearinghouses incorporates into the material that you can access. So that is the core of the webinar today, and I guess I'll open it up. Jay Andrews is helping us with the sorting through of questions, and if anyone has comments or questions, we'd certainly love to hear from you. And lacking that, we'll wind up shortly and be sending you all of this material, which I hope you'll begin as a way to explore further through the resource bank. Okay, Jay, do you have any questions?
No, there are no questions yet.
Okay, why don't we give a few seconds here to see if anyone would like to submit a question. Potentially, we could try to unmute if you want to raise your hand, and we are able to pull that off with the format of this software here. Any comments or questions? Remember, afterwards we'll be sending you this material. We'll also have a short follow-up survey. We'd appreciate hearing from you, further questions or comments. So we have a little bit of time. Okay, I don't think we see anything, so I'm afraid we're going to give you some extra time to go do some real work today. I know it's demanding to follow along with webinars. I appreciate your taking the time to come with us on this journey. And
Ken, we have 2 questions, 3 questions.
Okay.
That come in.
Okay, a few are coming in. Good. I'm glad I filibustered there. Okay, go on. Let's see what the first question is.
I take that back. They're just comments thanking you for the great information. This was wonderful. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that. I do see a couple of other things coming in. One agency indicated they have created family stabilization centers, which is a specific concept that hopefully some of this family economic mobility framework will fit nicely with. And I see a comment here about we need more information on assessments, and I assume that it refers to the family assessment as opposed to the community assessment. Certainly there are some good models out there on family development in particular that many of you are familiar with. When I send the follow-up email out, the person who sent that in, I will try to include some leads on some of the models that are being used with family development. I think that would fit in with the type of assessments that you're looking at. I know there's one actually coincidentally that I just learned about called the Success Program that has excellent assessment and software that they use for goal setting, monitoring, and creating outcomes data that you might be very interested in. I know others have asked about that, so certainly we'll share that as part of the follow-up information. Okay. You know, I'm having the hardest time with this window, Jay. On the, it's very small. I can hardly
drag it out and size it, open it up.
Let's see how I do that. Ah, very good. Okay.
Grab it and drag it.
Okay. Well, every time I do that, it goes back in. Do you see any other questions there?
Yes. One question. A real concern with higher education is the excessive loans. Rural areas do not offer affordable options. Any thoughts on moving low-income families to economic mobility and paying back loans?
Wow, paying back loans, that's a whole big area. But, you know, to me, it's more an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And I guess there are some states that have started with some college programs to help. Two things I would say that I've seen. Number one, state-level efforts where college savings accounts have been instituted and other types of policy strategies to help with access to college. But the other thing is to work with the colleges and universities themselves. I know many, particularly public universities, among others, are looking at ways to promote better diversity, particularly with low-income students who would not typically be able to afford college, so they set up special funds. So those are some approaches to it. As far as repaying college loans, that's a tough one. I'm not sure I've really seen anything on that in particular. Okay, this is interesting. I see a comment here saying we are trying to use the whole agency approach, Head Start, CSBG, job training, et cetera, which really is the fundamental question for so many community action agencies. How do we get out of our silos? How do we integrate what we do into a common mission with common goals and all feeding into outcomes that are going to truly be demonstrable, as well as showing the true differences we're making? I like that comment. Coincidentally, the success program that I talked about and the software that agency uses is agency-wide. Certainly, the Roma framework offers that as part of a fabric to bring everything into one construct. But I think it's key, and if you look at the material that we featured earlier from Leap of Reason and the follow-up What Works material, which talks about creating a performance management system that is agency-wide with top-to-bottom consensus, working hard, working well. Those tools are superb. I strongly encourage looking at working hard, working well as a toolkit to help really bond all the work that multi-purpose agencies like Community Action have instituted. And I think that's it. Can you see any more?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you for those questions. We'd love to have your follow-up feedback, please, if you can take a moment to complete our survey, which we'll send out with the follow-up info most likely on Monday. Okay, so we're going to close out now. Wish you all the best, and keep in touch as much as we can do at any time to help. Thank you very much.